It has been well documented. Idaho continues to be one of the fastest growing states in the country. Traffic and housing prices should tell you that. But this isn't the first time we've seen significant swelling of Idaho's population. The Gem State is currently seeing the dust settle on a 3-year increase of 6.2% from 2020 to 2023. We went from 1.85 million people to 1.96 million, which is only about a 2% increase per year. But between 1900 and 1930, we were seeing nearly 10,000 people a year move into Idaho, almost a 6% increase year over year. Things settled down from there with the annual growth rate hovering around 2 to 3%. But a 2% increase these days is a lot more people than it was, well, last century. Instead of 300,000 over 30 years, we've seen more than 115,000 people move into Idaho in just 3 years. And a good chunk of them have found a new home in the Treasure Valley, leaving most once small towns wrestling with the question of how do we pay for the infrastructure changes? Things like roads, emergency services, utilities, and of course, schools, which led to Rick sending us this question about CUNA asking for funding to pay for new and improved schools. Rick said, here we go again. Growth does not pay for itself. Charge an impact fee that really covers the services new growth requires. You know, he makes a good point, but let's set schools aside for just a moment. Impact fees are something most cities charge developers who put in new neighborhoods and shopping centers. And they certainly help cover the cost of police and fire, new roads or new city parks in and around those newly developed areas. For example, in Nampa, the impact fees for a single home is nearly $8,200. In Boise, depending on where in the city you build and how big you want to build that house, you're looking at $1,300 to $15,000. It's cheaper by the airport, by the way. City of Star is doing the same thing, but they have also something they call mitigation fees. The mayor says they're the only city in Idaho to charge them. And as Hunter Funk found out, it's keeping them debt-free with no bonds.
1905, the city of Star was an incorporated and established city. But after a decline in population when the Boise and Interurban Railway closed in 1928, it took until December 10, 1997, to get back to being an incorporated city. At that point, the population was a whopping 500 people. And it's clear, like many Idaho towns, it was not expected that there would be such a dramatic population boom. Looking back to 2015, there were more than 7,900 people in Star. In 2020, the census shows the population grew more than 40% with more than 11,000 people. And in 2024, the mayor says Star's expected to grow by another 83% with 20,370 people. Keeping up with that growth and upgrading the infrastructure is what has Star getting creative.
Growth is paying for growth in our community.
Mayor Trevor Chadwick, in his State of the City, says Star's similar to neighboring cities. For any new building that goes up in the city, there are impact fees. To build a single-family home, there is a $3,493 fee that goes towards roads, a fee of $2,152 that goes towards firefighting equipment and fire stations, and a parks fee of $2,050. That's nearly $8,000, similar to Nampa. But wait, that's not all.
So what we have done is we have gone and instituted mitigation fees in the development world. For every new house that's built in the city of Star, pays a fee that helps fund our police specifically. And that's something unique. No other city's doing that here in the state of Idaho right now. This is something that we're kind of been innovative on.
100% of Star's property tax budget goes to policing. But because that can't cover all of the needs, they have mitigation fees to increase funding for public safety, going to police and fire personnel. Together, this is an additional $6,960 for new builds. That brings the grand total to build a home to more than $14,600. Since 2022, the city's collected $1.7 million in mitigation fees.
Everybody doesn't like growth, but you've got to have a plan for that growth.
Mayor Chadwick says it's keeping their taxes lower than other cities, and right now it's working. There is still more work to be done to keep up with the demand, specifically for schools. The mayor says Star is actively advocating to the legislature to let them collect more impact fees to pay for the construction of new schools.
And the mayor says they are trying to get more commercial property as well to alleviate taxes on residents. He mentioned at least 15 new businesses are in the planning or construction phases right now.
I guess the question is, so these mitigation fees, if they're the only state or city in Idaho doing this, I assume that will start to kind of take off and get some, I don't know, I guess some power behind it with more cities doing it.
I mean, I could definitely see that. You know, when you're looking at just new builds, yeah, it's not very great if you're building something, but in the same sense, I mean, that's a great way to keep providing for that growth. If you're coming into the community, you got to help with the infrastructure.
And it helps to be a desirable spot like Star. If you're not, then builders are probably like, well, we'll just go somewhere else and look for cheaper places to build.
Kind of like Boise, you know, you look at the different spots on how much you have to pay.
Yeah.
The more desirable spots, the higher the price.
Yeah.